Hey guys, welcome back. For those that are coming back and for those that are new here, my name is Laura and I am super excited to be filming this today. We are going to be doing a reading vlog for something you guys picked. So you guys wanted to see me read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and basically the whole series. So that is what I'm going to be doing. So I am going to start today. I didn't have plans to start today. I'm actually filming this while the baby and Grace are sleeping, but I'm going to get started. So I asked you guys in a couple of my recent videos whether to start Killjoy before A Good Girl's Guide to Murder or after As Good as Dead, and there was a mix of opinions. So just based off the comments that I read, I'm going to start off with this one because a lot of people said starting off with this, it's just a great start to the series, and you know, it kind of gave you a preface as to, you know, what the whole series is about. So that is what I'm going to do. I am going to start this now, and of course I will keep you guys updated as I go. I'm super excited to jump into this, so I'm going to jump into this now. Alrighty guys, it is the next day and I apologize for not updating you guys as much as I would have loved to, but with having two kids, I also made dinner for my family yesterday and we had breakfast for dinner, which it's completely off topic, but we had breakfast for dinner and it takes me a while to make breakfast for dinner for all of us. So anyway, I did finish Killjoy and I think a lot of you guys are going to be shocked at what I rated it. I rated it a 2.5 stars, and here is why. Obviously, going into a book, you want to get to know the characters, you want to get to know their personalities, you just want to get to know them. And as some of you know, and for those who haven't read the book, this book takes place at a murder mystery party. So not only am I trying to get to know the characters, but they're also playing other people at the murder mystery party, so then you have another name for the characters that you don't really already know, and it just ends up, I don't know, I felt like it ended up ruining my reading experience reading this first because I didn't already know the characters, if that makes sense. So I not only had to learn the characters' names themselves and get to know them, but I also then had to learn the names of the people they were playing at the murder mystery party. So I actually read the first two chapters twice and I listened to the audiobook for those two chapters once. So in total, I went through the first two chapters 3 separate times just to make sure I had the characters' names right and I, you know, kind of got an idea of who they were playing at the murder mystery party. I get so worried that I'm going to mix up characters and, you know, be so confused, and I don't want to do that going into the series. Obviously, this is the novella that starts off the series, but I don't want to be confused going into the other 3 books and this be for nothing. So I really wanted to focus on, you know, getting to know the characters. But I also found it hard because they would refer to everybody as their, you know, normal names, and then they would switch and refer to people as their names at the murder mystery party. So you were getting both names. It's hard. It made the reading experience very hard, and that's why I rated it a 2.5. I did love how Holly Jackson can keep you on the edge of your seat. I did love that. I also loved how the chapters were short and each chapter made you want to continue on to the next one. So that made the reading experience better. But I just felt like reading this first, it kind of ruined the reading experience of this novella for me. And I want to see at the end of this series what I think would have happened if I read it at the end. Like, would I have liked it more if I read it at the end, or would I feel the same way about it? But I did enjoy, you know, learning why this series started off, like how Pip started her interest in this kind of stuff. I did really enjoy that. But anyway, Killjoy is done, and I am now moving on to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I am pumped to be getting into this. I know a lot of you love this series, so I'm just so excited. I can't wait to jump into it. I'm gonna jump into it right now, and I have the physical copy here, which you guys obviously see, and I also have this book on my Kindle, so I will probably start off reading it on my Kindle. Let's jump into A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Okay, so I wanted to come and give you guys a very quick update. So I did start, and then, you know, as soon as I started, of course, one of the kids woke up. So I didn't get very far into it. I'm only on page 31, chapter 4. But I have to say, I can already see why people probably love this book. And I got to chapter 4 really quickly, and I think it has a lot to do with the formatting of the book. But first, before we get into that, for those who haven't read this book is about a girl named Pip. And I'm just going to do a little introduction so far. Obviously, I haven't gotten very far into the book, but to start this book off, she is going into her senior year and she has to do a senior capstone project. She decides to do it on a murder that took place in her town 5 years ago. So a girl named Andy was murdered, and the town has believed that it was her boyfriend that murdered her, and his name is Sal. So what ended up happening was Andy was murdered, then Sal ended up committing suicide. So the town just, you know, assumed that Sal did it, and it ended up being a cold case. So what ends up happening is Pip decides that she's going to do her senior capstone project on this murder and kind of look at how missing person cases are handled and do a little bit of interviewing and researching and things of that nature. But I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really intrigued, and we're not even that far into the book. But again, like I said, I feel like what makes this book go so fast is the formatting of it, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I'll show you what I mean by that for people who haven't read this book yet. So I said that Pip does a senior capstone project, and in here we actually have her proposal, and you can see that it's formatted as the actual proposal itself. Like, it's not in the regular text. You can see there her signature. And then you also have, as she goes and does research and interviews people, she has logs as she goes. And this is not in the same text as the regular book as well. As like the rest of the book, I mean, not the regular book. The regular book is the whole book. And then she also does her interviews in like a transcript style. And here, I'll show you that. You can see the people's names here. So I feel like there is so much going on in this book to split it up that it makes it go super fast, and I absolutely love that. And I'm excited to dive further into this book. I think it's going to be a super quick read for me, and I am expecting to really enjoy it, but we shall see. Obviously, I'm not that far into it yet. So I will probably update you guys again later because we need to get the kids for a bath later tonight. And then I will probably read right before bed. So I will probably just end up updating you guys tomorrow, and we'll see how far I get. But so far I'm enjoying it. Again, I'm not that far in, but I am enjoying it, and I'm excited to get a little bit further into it. Alrighty guys, it is update time. So I'm about a third of the way through here. I am on chapter 14, page 119. As you can see there. And like I said yesterday, I can see why people love this book. It is one that keeps you wanting to go from chapter to chapter. So every chapter ends with you wanting to read the next chapter. And with having my newborn, I don't get to read nearly as much as I did prior to having him, with just only having Grace, her being a toddler. So I don't get to read as much as I would love, but if I didn't have, you know, my kids, I would be through this book in a day, because that is just how much it makes you want to continue through the chapters. It's really hard for me to put the book down. So I really love that aspect of it. I think Holly Jackson does a really good job of putting you on the edge of your seat as well. I often feel like my heart pounding and like my heart racing and things like that. And it's a YA book, and I wasn't really expecting that, especially it being YA, but I absolutely love it. I really love Pip's character. I also love Ravi. I can't wait to see, you know, where this goes and how things go. But anyway, that is where I'm at in the book. I'm going to continue reading today. I'm hoping to come to you guys with another update, obviously before the day ends. I really am trying my best to keep you guys updated with where I am in the book and what I'm thinking, but we shall see. But I am really enjoying this, and I'm so glad you guys ended up picking this for my reading vlog for this month. So I'm going to continue, and I will be back to talk to you guys soon. Alrighty guys, it is update time. It is Monday morning, so I did not get to update you guys yesterday. It is 7 o'clock here, and I've already gone through 2 outfits as well as the baby. We're having a little bit of a rough morning, but I wanted to give you guys an update because obviously I didn't update you guys yesterday. So we ended up having breakfast yesterday, going to a Polish American festival at one of our local Polish churches, and then we ordered food and watched some football. But I did end up finishing A Good Girl's Guide to Murder yesterday, and I really enjoyed this book. There was so much suspense packed into this book, and I just absolutely love that. I was actually talking to my brother's girlfriend who has already read this, and I was telling her how I was shocked at how, you know, this is a YA book, but there is so much suspense. It has you on the edge of your seat very often, and I feel like a lot of adult thrillers kind of lack that sometimes. And for how much suspense was packed into this YA book, I was very shocked, and I absolutely loved it. Another thing I absolutely loved about this book, which I talked about before, was the format of this book. I think the format of this book really made this for a quick, easy read. I'm someone who loves short chapters, and that kind of broke up the book for me, and I really enjoyed that. Another thing I really enjoyed the characters, and I love that anybody could have been a person of interest. Yes, Pip has this running list of people of interest, but it could have literally been anyone because so many people were just so suspicious, and I love that about this book. I literally thought so many different times that so many different people were involved, and I absolutely love that. I have to say that there were multiple plot twists in this, and the one part of a plot twist I did predict, but the other ones I was surprised about. And when I say surprised, I wasn't like completely surprised because like I said, in this book, the person of interest, the suspect, could have been literally anybody in this book, which is, you know, like I said, I really enjoyed. The one thing I did not enjoy about this book was how much danger Pip put herself in. There were so many scenarios where Pip put herself in so much danger in order to solve this case that, I don't know, I didn't like the danger she put herself in, but that's also what created the suspense. So I didn't like it, but I love the suspense, if that makes sense. I don't know. This was a 4-star read for me, and I could definitely see myself rereading this book, which I hope continues throughout this series. But I am starting Good Girl, Bad Blood. I do have the physical book here, obviously, and I do also have this book checked out as an audiobook on Libby, and I've heard that the audiobooks of these books are absolutely phenomenal. So I wanted to kind of try out the audiobook as well, but I feel like a big part of these books is how quick and simple it is to read because of the formatting, and I feel like you'll lose that if you do an audiobook. Like in this here, you can see text messages, and I feel like you miss that with the audiobook. But like I said, I heard phenomenal things about the audiobook as well, so I feel like maybe I'll give the audiobook a try after a while and see how I'm liking it. But I just love the formatting of these books, and I love seeing text messages. I love seeing, you know, like broken up chapters. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I will definitely keep you guys updated. Again, I am going to do more updates, guys. I promise you that. So let's jump into Good Girl, Bad Blood, and I will see you guys later today. Okay, so I love how her brother is now trying to be a detective at the school. If you guys have read this, there's a scene in the beginning here where her brother, you know, tries to find something that's missing at school, and it's really cute. He actually ends up getting in trouble for it anyway, but it's super cute that he wants to be like his older sister. I think that's a really cool touch to the story. I also love how we are still into the same story as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Like, the first chapter in here is talking about the trial, and I love that as well. It's super cool. And then of course, you guys know I love the formatting of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder because of the like interviews and things of that nature. We are still getting, you know, that formatting here, but I am already enjoying this, and I'm not even, so I read the prologue, and part of chapter 1, and then this transcript for the podcast is part of chapter 1 still, and I'm already loving it. I don't know what it is with Holly Jackson's writing, but it has me super intrigued. And again, I really love that part she put in with Pip's brother. I think that was super cute, but gonna continue going. Alrighty guys, so I didn't update you guys yesterday because I only read the little prologue section in the beginning of the book. I'll show you. It's literally the tiniest thing. It's called After and Before. I only read that small portion of the book yesterday because we had a little bit of a rough day with the kids, between Grace being just extremely tired from Sunday and all of the events that took place on Sunday, and then with the baby, I have a hard time putting him down without him waking immediately right back up. So that is what went on yesterday. So I only got to read that. But as you saw, I did jump right into reading this morning, and I got to page 157, chapter 16, and I'm really enjoying the book. This is it's almost 40% of the way through this book. And I have been going back and forth between actually physically reading this morning and also doing the audiobook because the baby's, going back and forth between being up and sleeping. So that is what I got done so far this morning. Right now it is 6:55 in the morning. I've been up since like 3:15 feeding him. So that is what I got done so far. I love that in the beginning here we have mentions of the trial that is taking place from the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder book. And then we also have another case going on here. And this one is about Jamie Reynolds, who is Connor's brother. And Connor is one of Pip's friends. And when Jamie goes missing, Connor goes to Pip and says, the police are not looking into Jamie's case right now because it is considered low priority, because Jamie has been known for going missing for periods of time and not contacting family or anything like that, and then showing back up. And he is also an adult. So he is considered low priority. So the police are not doing anything in the beginning. And so Connor asks Pip to look into it, obviously, because of what went on in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And he thinks that she will be able to, help them out with the case. And even if Pip isn't necessarily able to completely solve it on her own, he knows obviously Pip has this podcast now, and she is able to get information out to other people, and for, people to reach out to her if they have anything about Jamie's whereabouts and things of that nature. So that is what I'm reading about in this book. And again, it is a really quick read. Like I said, I'm 40% of the way through this book already, and I've only been reading it and listening to it this morning. I really, really do enjoy the audiobook, especially for the interviews and things like that. But I feel like with these books, you do kind of miss portions of the stories. And that's why I'm going back and forth. Even if I listen to a chapter with the audiobook, I go back and I look through the chapter to make sure there aren't any little pieces I'm missing. There's also like pictures in here. As you can see here, they have pictures like before and after pictures. And then there are, let me show you, there's like a floor layout in here of someone's house. And there is the missing persons poster in here. Let me show you. So I don't want to miss anything. I feel like if I'm listening to the audiobook, I'm missing something. So I go back and skim the chapters just to make sure I'm not missing anything, because that is also a piece of these books. Like I said, probably 100 times again, that is part of these books that I absolutely love and why I like physically reading them, because obviously you don't get that in the audiobook. So I have definitely been going back and skimming when I am not, physically reading this book, but I am trying my best to physically read as much of the book as possible and just listening to the audiobook, when I need to tend to the baby and things like that. So I am still really enjoying this. There's a lot going on and I'm super excited to continue with this book. I'm hoping to get this done by the end of the day. I will keep you guys updated as to, how much I get done through the day. Again, you can see there about 40% of the way through. So I will continue to update you guys. It's update time. So I had an amazing reading day. I finished up Good Girl, Bad Blood, And I really, really, really love this book as well. Now, if I had to pick which one I liked more between this one and the first one, I would say I liked the first one just a bit more. I felt like the first one had a little bit more suspense, at least for me. The first one had me on the edge of my seat almost the entire time, whereas this one, I don't know, I had a feeling that I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to give anything away. But I had a feeling that ended up being correct in this one that didn't keep me nearly as on the edge of my seat as the first one did, if that makes sense. But I have to say with this one, the plot twist was definitely a lot more unpredictable, at least to me. The first one, like I said, anybody could have been a person of interest. Anybody could have been the person who had done it. With this one, I kind of felt the same way, but I felt like this was more, you were able to pinpoint it a little bit more, and I didn't feel like everyone in this one could have been a suspect, whereas the other one I did, if that makes any sense. And the ending, I obviously could not guess whatsoever. Like I said, it was this whole thing, the whole ending was completely unpredictable to me. If you guessed this ending, props to you, because I could not see that coming. And the plot twist in this book had to be something that was planned out in advance. And just like the first one, these plot twists in these books are something that had to be planned out in advance for a writer to incorporate in the books. And that's what I also really love about these books. Not only do they have you on the edge of your seat, especially for YA books, I can't get over that. But again, I have to say, like the first one, I did not like the amount of danger Pip puts herself in. I think the amount of danger she puts herself in is quite crazy. She even admits in the very beginning of this book how much danger she put herself in the other book, as well as how much danger she puts her loved ones in as well, investigating these cases. Another thing I did want to say that I didn't enjoy in this book is I get that Jamie's case was a low priority case because of some of the other situations that have gone on in the past with Jamie. But at the same time, I feel like even though it was low priority, it wouldn't have gone that many days with a person missing without the police doing something. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I felt. I was like, we're going on it was even like day 7 and the police were still like not doing anything and this kid was still missing. And I'm like, that I can't, it's not realistic. Again, it's fiction. I get that. But I was just like, I wish it was a little more realistic, if that makes sense. I feel like that would have made it a little bit better. But I so enjoyed these books. I can't wait to jump into the third one, which I have here, which I'm going to be starting. I'm going to get changed in my pajamas, and then I am going to be starting As Good as Dead. And I have to say, I am a little bit more nervous about this one because I've heard such mixed reviews. I've heard some people say that this is their absolute favorite book of the series, and I've heard other people say that they wish this book never existed. So I am really curious going into this one. I'm like intrigued as to, you know, see what I'm gonna think. But I am going to get started on this one. I probably won't get very far into this book because, as you can see, I am super tired. I have bags under my eyes and that's how tired I am. But I'm super glad that today was a good reading day and I was able to get through Good Girl, Bad Blood as fast as I was able to get through it, because I don't often have days where, you know, the kids nap at the same time and, you know, the kids are occupied at the same time. So I was super glad to get through this in a day because I only read the prologue yesterday. So I read the rest of it today. So I was super excited about that, but I'm also super excited yet nervous to jump into this one. So let's get started on jumping into this one as soon as I get changed. Alrighty guys, are you ready for another update? So as you saw, I started reading this before bed. I did not get to update you at all yesterday. So what ended up happening was I read a little bit before bed, then I only read the tiniest bit yesterday, and I'm going back and forth now between reading the physical book when I can, because like I said, I love seeing those little inserts of like pictures and whatnot, and like interviews and things of that nature. So I keep going back and forth between reading the physical book and then listening to audiobook as well. And I right now am about 50% of the way through. And I have to say that this book gives a whole different vibe than the previous two books. This book starts off and you already feel the darkness in this book. I don't know really how to describe it. I know I say that a lot. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to put into words like the feeling you get when you start this book. I'm also quite disappointed in Pip, and I know like, so what she does is like completely out of character for her. But what we also have to realize is like people deal with trauma in so many different ways, and how she's dealing with trauma, I was not expecting at all. I was mind blown when I read that in this book. She just, I don't know. I wasn't expecting it for her, to be quite honest. And right now where I'm at in the book is a huge point in the book. She was on the phone and then something ends up happening after she hangs up the phone. And like I said, I'm about 50% of the way, so maybe it gives it away for those people that have read the book. I don't want to say any more than that. But I also really love how this book kind of connects all of the other books into it. And you're kind of getting to connect the stories together and see why people may have done what they did. Like, we already know why based on the other books, but this is like the underlying reason, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe it. At least that's what I'm getting from this so far. But again, like I said, this just has a very dark like undertone to the writing. And I think that's super neat since we didn't really get that in the previous two books. We obviously have like the suspense in all of the books, but there's just a darkness to this one that wasn't in the other ones, and it has to do mainly with, you know, Pip's character and what she's going through and things of that nature. But I'm really enjoying this still, and I'm curious to see where this ends up going. I think I know where this is going. But Holly Jackson's plot twist, I mean, man, I would have never guessed the second book would have went the way it did in the end. The first book, like I said, it could have been anybody, you know, but the second book I would have never guessed. So I'm like, I think I know where this is going, but at the same time, I think there's going to be a plot twist that's going to kind of throw me for a loop. So we'll see how that ends up going. But I am still really enjoying this series. But anyway, let's continue reading this book. I am hoping to get it done by the end of day today. We shall see, but I will keep you guys updated as to what I think. And I need to get reading if I'm going to finish this today. So that's what I'm going to go do now. Alrighty guys, so I had to switch over to the audiobook to feed and burp this little guy here. But anyway, so I wanted to give you an update, but I think in my last update I didn't tell you exactly what this book was about. I don't think I ever got to that. But this book is about Pip herself, and someone is following / watching Pip. And things are happening to her that happened to 5 women, I think it's 6 years ago in the book, before they were murdered by a serial killer. So obviously Pip is alarmed. Pip had just found out that these things were happening to these women before they were murdered. And we also have to take into account that, you know, she was getting death threats and anonymous messages and things like that beforehand. But she is now getting calls from a blocked number. And, you know, obviously you would be alarmed and things like that. But she did end up going to the police in the beginning of the book, but they kind of wrote her off, which, you know, they've written everything off from all of the books, but she hasn't gone to them since finding out more about these actions being the same as the actions that took place before the murders happened. So anyway, she does think they're connected to the same serial killer. She thinks the person who was put away is not the right person. And I wanted to give you guys an update because I know I said in the last video that I thought I knew what was going to happen in this book, and I am almost 60% of the way through now, so not very much further, but still a little bit further. And I was able to predict, you know, what happened, not what happened, but who might be involved. And I'm kind of disappointed, I have to say, because the first book, while it could have been anybody and I had my guesses, but my guesses weren't right. And I was still shocked. Although I thought it could be those people, I was still shocked. And then the second book, I had like, there was no predicting the second book. And in this book, I was able to predict it, and I was able to predict it pretty easily just because of, I think it was 2 scenes in this book that made it really obvious as to who, you know, could be involved.
I don't know, I'm a little disappointed, but I'm going to continue the book and I'll keep you updated with my thoughts and things of that nature. I'm only, like I said, almost 60% of the way through. Sorry if this is shaking. I'm rocking and trying to burp him and, patting him at the same time. But I will keep you guys updated because I'm assuming there's going to have to be another plot twist, but I am not quite sure. We'll see, but I will keep you guys updated. Again, I'm a little disappointed, but it is what it is. Sometimes books are a little more predictable, but I'm hoping there's another plot twist in here. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated.
Alrighty guys, so this is going to be the final little update here because I did finish As Good as Dead a little bit earlier today, but I had to sit and think on this one because I did not like this one nearly as much as I like the other two books. And I think it has a lot to do with just the whole premise of this book. So the other two books, we watch Pip kind of do an investigation and come up with people of interest and come up with the evidence and, things of that nature. And there was so much suspense packed into those books. And there was a lot of plot twists and surprises. And this one I feel like didn't give that. For this one, I feel like the person who was involved, it was so predictable, and I know I said in one of my videos when I was reading this, I was like, I think I know who it is, and I was saying that I thought I knew who it was because I was kind of also expecting it to change or there to be some ginormous plot twist in it, and there really wasn't. And in the first book I did predict one thing in it, one of the plot twists in it, but I was still, I don't know, there was still so much suspense building because it literally could have been anyone. And while you may have guessed who it was such a good ride, throughout the book, trying to figure out who it was because there were so many people you could have guessed who it was. And I don't know, it was quite possible, you know what I mean? And then the second book, I don't know how anybody would guess that plot twist. If you guessed it, I don't know what to say. That's crazy. And I don't know. It's just crazy because I would never be able to guess that. I felt like that one came out of left field and was just such a shock. And this one, it was very, very obvious who was involved. And I don't know. I wish there was more suspense in this one. And while there was suspense in this one, it was just not nearly as much as the other ones. There was also a really dark undertone in this one. I felt like Pip kind of felt out of character, but I also understood that because of the trauma she was going through from the other cases that she had, been through previously in the other two books. So I understood that, but it was just, I don't know, it felt kind of off to me. I don't know how really else to explain it because I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to say too much without giving away spoilers or anything like that. But I know it's kind of an unpopular opinion to not like this one as much. I feel like people really, really love this book and thought it was a great end to the series, but I just didn't feel that way. At the end of this, I really, really loved Pip in the other books, but at the end of this one, I don't know, I didn't really love Pip nearly as much as I did in the other books, but I also still did enjoy going through it and still did enjoy the story. I really, really, really loved how all the books were connected, and you kind of got to see how much they were connected in this book, and I love that. There was so much planning that went into this series that I thought was absolutely phenomenal. I also think Holly Jackson did such an amazing job with the formatting of these books in that there are the podcasts at the ends of the chapters, there's the interviews, there's just so much formatting going on with the text messages, there's emails, and I love that. I felt like it broke the book up in a way that it just kept you wanting to read more, and the chapters were short and easy to get through. I think these were all just such quick, fun, easy reads because of the way the books were formatted. So I really, really enjoyed that as well. So I ended up giving this one a 3-star. So out of all of the books here, I would say that I would rate this series a 4-star overall. So I did end up giving Killjoy a 2.5, which you guys saw why in the beginning of this vlog. Now that I'm done this series, I do have to say that I don't know if my rating would have changed if I read this at the end, because I would have probably felt like this was kind of a little bit more pointless at the end. But I also am curious, maybe I will reread this just knowing all of the characters and everything that went on in the series. And I heard people say there's a lot of foreshadowing in this one, and I would love to go back and just look at more of the detail that goes on in this story, just to see the foreshadowing more and things of that nature. I'd be really curious to see. But as far as reading this at the beginning or the end of the series, I don't know. I do think maybe the beginning is the best spot for this, just because it kind of sets you up for the whole series in general. But at the end might also be nice because you know the characters and you aren't so focused on getting to know the main characters and the dinner party characters at the same time. So I don't know. I don't know where this might best fit, but I do think kind of in the beginning to set the series up might be the best way. But I don't know. I'm still kind of iffy on this one. And then we got into obviously the first book, which I rated a 4-star. And honestly, this one was my favorite of the series. And then we got into Good Girl, Bad Blood, which I also rated a 4-star. Now these both I rated 4 stars. But I do have to say I did enjoy A Good Girl's Guide to Murder just a little bit more, just a tad bit more than Good Girl, Bad Blood. So, but these were both 4-star reads for me. And then we ended it off with As Good as Dead with a 3-star rating. So thanks guys for following with me in this little reading vlog. I wish I could have updated you guys a lot more in the beginning of this video like I did towards the end, but things happen and you know, life happens and things of that nature. But I want to know, have you read this series? And if you have, what were your thoughts on it? What did you think about each book separately and then the series as a whole? And if you have not read it yet, do you plan on reading it? But I am so glad that you guys picked this series for me to do the reading vlog on. I am so glad that I read this series because it had been sitting on my shelf for quite a little while. I think the fall was the perfect time for this series. So thanks guys for sticking with me for this reading vlog. I'm hoping to do so many more like this. So if you like this video, make sure to give it that thumbs up. And if you want to see more reading vlogs or just more bookish videos in general, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I would love for you to join us. And I will see you guys soon.